Hakeem Jeffries is vowing to fight the new church committee. So there was recently a vote, obviously. It was a party line vote. 221 Republicans voted yes. 211 Democrats voted no on the formation of a new church committee to investigate wrongdoings and weaponization of the federal government, in particular the DOJ. And Hakeem Jeffries took to Twitter to promise his justice-minded Democratic constituents that he was going to fight this committee tooth and nail. Extreme MAGA Republicans have established a select committee on insurrection protection. He always does these hip-hop type rhymes now, like that's his thing, right? Some fucking stupid fucking catchphrase, right? We will fight it tooth and nail. Now, what I found great about this...
He's the new hip cool house speaker.
Yeah, exactly. What I found great about this is that this was actually fact-checked by Twitter, because this was such an egregious way to smear this new Select Subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government. As you can see, the little fact-check box there says what he's calling Insurrection Protection is actually a subcommittee on government weaponization. And so, who are the fascists here? He's going to fight that tooth and nail?
Right.
Who are the fascists here?
Well, this is what's crazy. It just keeps getting crazier because now, more and more, if you are a civil libertarian, you're being pushed into this position where not only can you not support Democrats, you're being pushed to a position where you're going to have to support Republicans. I don't want to support Republicans. I don't agree with them on most things, but I agree with them on this. I agree. And this is a vitally important issue.
Of course.
When you have the other party is not only extremely pro-intelligence services, they're also extremely pro-censorship. They're very pro-speech control. They're very pro limiting what can be discussed in our universities.
They seem to be very pro-weaponization of the government. Maybe that's why he's vowing to fight this tooth and nail. They seem to be very supportive of
these Twitter files just dropped. So you can't even argue this is a committee in search of a problem. The evidence just came out. We saw how the federal government manipulated Twitter management into becoming an arm of the government. How they started off very resistant and they ran an op on them. They turned them into CIs. They turned the whole Twitter staff into their informants and their accomplices. You don't think a committee like this is necessary? Like, who am I supposed to support? Yeah, I live in New York. It doesn't really matter who I vote for. But if I were in a swing state, I don't know who I'd vote for at this point because of issues like this. Because the Democrats aren't doing shit for you anyway on the things that I do care about. And on the few things that are getting done in Washington, they're on the wrong side.
Right. Well, exactly. And look, beyond that, I mean, like I said, they are focusing more specifically on the DOJ now, right? And a lot of that does have to do with the January 6th protests and things like that. But I would argue that, yes, the DOJ is being weaponized against people who were at that protest in ways that are not fair. And that is no doubt going to be one of the major thrusts of this select subcommittee. And if the Democrats wanted to say, hey, while you're investigating abuses against the right, why don't you investigate abuses against the left, right? They can actually use that to shine a light on some of those issues. They're not. But I'm sorry, it is weaponization. This is an unprecedented thing where you have this January 6th riot, and then you have the government going into photos on people's social media and not just sniffing out people from their own social media photos, but looking in the background and finding, okay, who happened to be there and let's prosecute them. That does not happen in normal cases. That does not. Now, listen, We covered the George Floyd protests. We didn't really have a YouTube show then. We wrote about it a lot. We covered it on our audio show a lot. We spoke very, very favorably of all of those protest actions. But I want you to tell me, everybody, and sorry, Russell, I didn't prep this graphic because I literally just thought of this now. So I scrambled here. All right. But I want everybody to tell me, okay, did the Department of Justice, Trump's Department of Justice, examine photos like this one and say, okay, who's this guy standing on this K-rail here, on this guardrail here? Who is that person? Can we zoom in on him? Can we find out any more information on him? Can we find out where he lives? We'd like to arrest him because he was here when they burnt down a fast food restaurant, and we'd like to put him in jail. Now, I'm not saying that should have happened. Don't get me wrong. But I'm saying it is happening to the January 6th people, and it didn't happen to anybody at these riots where police stations were burned to the ground, right? I mean, there was, dramatic, not just civil unrest, but in a sense, burning down a police station is an insurrection of its own. I mean, that is an attempt to overthrow the local government of a town or city.
Oh,
right?
if you wanted to get cute about it, I'm sure you could use the Patriot Act, call that terrorism.
Of course you could. Now, once again, I want to be 100% clear about this because this is where it always gets a little confusing. I am not advocating you do that. I do not want anyone in this picture to go to jail. I don't want the book thrown at them. I don't want their lives ruined for being at that rally. Funny. All right, but everybody knows what I mean, right?
So it was a fiery rally.
Right, it was a fiery rally. But I don't think the people at January 6th deserve that treatment either. Now, if somebody is convicted of assaulting an officer or anything, that's different. That's different. But we're not talking about that. It was widely known. This was all over the news back then. If you saw somebody in that crowd, if you know someone who was in that crowd, you have to call the authorities, even if they weren't accused of a crime that day, even if you're just there on the lawn that day, right? Even if you didn't have knowledge of them entering the building at all. If you know someone who was there, you need to get in touch with the authorities. Come on. That's weaponization of the DOJ. That is weaponization, and that should be investigated because that does not happen under any other circumstance.
Well, and it's interesting that liberals seem to think, in spite of all evidence to the contrary, that they'll always be in control of the government. I don't know why they think that, because they so rarely are. And they never seem to think about the next step in the chess game. Well, the precedents you establish are going to be the same precedents that are going to be used against you when there's a new Republican president.
But what's crazy about this, Russ, is that Donald Trump was president during the George Floyd protests, and you did not see him on TV telling people to, rat out their friends who were in social media.
But now they've done this.
Right.
Now they've done this.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
So what's President DeSantis going to do in the same situation? And now you've given him the justification. Well, look what we did about January 6th. Look, these people are burning down a police station. Of course, that's an act of insurrection. We have to send them all to jail for 5 years.
Right.
What are you going to say? No, you're not going to be able to say that. Look, you spent once you got done with Russiagate, your new Russiagate became January 6th. Now, unlike Russiagate, January 6th actually happened. It was actually based on something, but your manipulation of it for viewers and clicks was no less cynical.
Please clap.